Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the art table again today. I have made a lot of videos talking about what I think the failures of storytelling are in the modern era. I haven't talked as much about how I think we can overcome that, and I think that's an oversight on my part and one I'm going to try and rectify starting today. There are a lot of things you can do in terms of techniques used and the way you look at prose that would be a big help to modern storytelling, but I think just as many of the problems in storytelling stem from large issues rooted in the viewpoints of creators, we must likewise approach solving the problems from these large viewpoint issues first. One of the first things we have to address, I believe, is the fear of failure. Now, no one likes a screw-up, not even the person doing the screw-ups. Everyone wants to be successful, they want to be recognized for their talent and for their hard work. They want to do a good job. Even people who present a front of apathy usually turn out to have one or two things that they are really passionate about and which they don't like to do a half-assed job at. There are probably a handful of people out there who just don't care whether they do a thing well or not. You can't do a whole lot about these people, and in general, they are not going to reach the pinnacle of a profession anyways. So, in general, I believe there is some level of fear of failure in modern productions. A lot of that comes from studio or publisher side. You cannot make small stories anymore, whether it be movies, television, or even books. Publishers want a long-running series. They want characters or a setting that can support dozens or even hundreds of stories. Showrunners want to know that they are going to get at least 3 seasons out of an IP they pick up, maybe more. Movies are more and more interested in the idea of the cinematic universe, an idea that was not started by but was largely popularized in the modern era by the MCU. These enormous, sweeping stories leave very little room for failure. There is so much time and monetary and audience investment in these stories that any kind of slip-up has to be sold as a feature rather than a bug, or else all that investment is going to go down the drain. This gives the business side of storytelling a very strong resistance to failure. As bad as it is for investors, it's even worse for storytellers. You only have so many creative hours in the day, and when you sink them all into building up just one thing, when it is your bread and butter for days and days and days, it can be really crippling to your confidence and your creative ability to have all of that work simply thrown out the window. The emotional investment in it alone can blind a creator to the shortcomings of their work and make it impossible to convince them to change anything. This huge investment makes the fear of failure even greater and, paradoxically, makes the creator resistant to any kind of changes that could improve their work. Particularly since any change will have ripple effects down the line, possibly distorting the author's entire plan for their story, requiring huge amounts of revamping, editing, and continuity work in order to make everything work again. This, combined with the demands of scheduling and audience expectations, can make it impossible to make necessary changes within your window of opportunity and leave you with a very broken story. So with all of the hurdles that modern storytelling presents us with, how do we overcome them and the resulting fear of failure? Well, my best advice is fail faster. For those not familiar with this adage, it comes more from design than it does from art. Now, these are very closely related fields, but art is often offered to us as a singular creative vision that all aspects of a project must then be built around, whereas design is usually viewed as meeting a specific set of needs or a single need, which your vision is then tested against to see how successfully it can meet the needs available. This is a very flawed dichotomy because, of course, your creative vision has needs, and you can test the pieces of your vision against the needs of your vision and see whether they are truly in harmony. Art versus design is a very interesting subject and is worthy of its own discussion, so I'm going to table it for now. The point of saying fail faster is to create in the designer, or in our particular case, in the artist, a willingness to compare what you are creating with the desired outcome and be willing to discard what you are creating if you are not getting the desired outcome. If an artist truly has a strong creative vision, it should be possible to compare what they are creating to that vision very early on and see if they match. If they don't match, adjustments must be made. Failure must be accepted so that precious time is not lost trying to conform what you have with a purpose that it does not fulfill. Artists must become more comfortable with saying, the project I am working on is not doing what I want it to right now. I should set it aside and work on something else that will. Many artists erroneously believe that means their project is dead and they will never have an opportunity to come back to it and work on it again. This is not even remotely true. Projects that are set aside almost always come back, but again, this is a topic worthy of its own discussion, so we're going to set it aside. For now, the point is, the faster you set aside something that is not working as a story, the faster you can start working on something that will. Just as importantly, the less creative time and energy you put into a project, the less setting it aside is going to impact you in terms of your creative energy and in terms of your emotional investment. When you are an artist, it is very important to manage these things if you wish to avoid burnout, which is very important in any creator. By the same token, the companies that create entertainment have to be much, much less invested in these really big projects. I know they look really tempting, they print money, they get tons of good press when they are successful. If they are unsuccessful, you don't get any of those benefits and you have plowed a ton of resources into making a thing work. Publishers need to start releasing more short story fiction anthologies. TV stations need to invest more in pilots. Streaming services, probably the same. Movie studios need to make a movie for its own sake and then think about potentially franchising it if it does really well. These are the ways entertainment companies failed faster in the past. It's time to bring them back. Otherwise, we're going to see these companies continue to plow a ton of resources into entertainment ideas that do not, in fact, entertain. As they lose money, their opportunities to create new entertainment will rapidly dry up, and we will be left with a very, very narrow set of entertainment to choose from. The promise of the internet era and its smorgasbord of entertainment opportunities will be lost. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Let me know what you think of that down in the comments below. There's a like button and a subscribe button down there. You can use those as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.